Akame got killed. Episode 4, Kill the Imperial Arms Users. This was definitely an awesome action episode. We got to see Akame actually fight more than like two little slashes, from the first episode. And it was pretty awesome. We got to see this villain who I definitely thought was going to be a main villain because, of course, I haven't seen the anime yet, so I don't know, how far up the villains get and all the craziness. But this guy comes in. I thought he's going to be like a main villain, if not, for the whole series, because obviously they have to go against the chief or whoever the guy is that's messing with the young king right now. Of course, they're going to go after that guy eventually. But I thought this guy was going to last, and then he gets killed off, especially with his power. I thought, okay, he's got basically five powers in one. He has the illusion thing, he can read people's minds, he has like the crazy, it's basically like a telescope almost, which, sort of a power still. And then he had the foresight as well, and like, well, how are they going to act? They might beat him as far as the fight goes, but they did kind of mention it early on that when two Imperial Arms users meet, one person is gonna die. Like that's just how it is. So it was pretty cool. I definitely loved the first half of this episode, giving us definitive info on the Imperial Arms and what they are, how long ago they were made, because they kind of mentioned it a little bit in the last episode, especially with mine. Like this is my Imperial Arms. This is what it does, and they're it's like, how do you not know what they are? They're ancient weapons, and then that was kind of it. So I'm glad they only did it, only took one more episode to say this is everything about them pretty much. And they explained everyone's weapons, so that was really awesome because the girl who had like the lion powers, which I thought were just cat powers because of course she just has cat ears, I was very curious. I'm like, I don't know if she has, actual superpowers. And I mentioned this before, like, I don't know if it's like some people have natural powers because they have monsters and seemingly magic. So it's like, I don't know if some people have real powers or if it's all weapons and stuff. So this kind of gives me the answer that if you're human, you're just flat out human, but, they have the magical Imperial Arms. And once again, sort of still gives the classification of magic a little bit, but I guess it's based off of more science. It's almost like alchemy a little bit, where it's kind of magic, but not really. Because they do transfer a lot of the abilities of some of these creatures, like the guy who has the armor, bro, because I can't think of his real name. He can become invisible because of whatever random S-class creature they killed off could turn invisible temporarily as well. So he has camouflage. Other weapons can have stuff like that too. So it's very interesting how all these weapons were created, from like stones, and like even when they showed like the gym, it was like S rank creatures. They killed like this giant thing, and then it was like this stone was just floating in space. So it was just like a statue and a stone. So it really makes it feel like there's magic, but they don't ever say it's magic in the world. But that's pretty much exactly what it is. You have a gun that uses channels fear into a laser. So it's almost like a serious form of magic, but they don't use the word magic. So it's really interesting. But I like getting the explanation of everyone's weapons except for the boss's weapon. So they didn't talk about hers. Maybe it's not an Imperial Arms and it's just an actual robot arm, which would be interesting because if it was an Imperial Arm, I would have to assume it was made for the king and they just didn't tell that backstory for whatever reason. Because, either the king or maybe like his right hand man who was like, okay, you lost your arm in a big battle or something. I'm going to have them build you an Imperial weapon that's your full on arm or something. I don't know. But we didn't get an explanation, so I feel like they were saving that for a reason. But it was nice to see everyone else's other weapons. This is what the armor does, the katana, everything. We got full detail, names of the weapons, what they do and stuff. So that was definitely pretty cool. So I really loved that. Getting to see the villain at the end, Tatsumi, going up against him was pretty cool. Seeing Tatsumi actually not win the fight was nice because, of course, that led to us getting to see Akame fight. But he did good. He held up on his own for a guy who could, not only read his mind and just learn what he's going to do based off of reading his mind, but he can also see the future in general. So it was definitely pretty awesome seeing him go up against an enemy that he couldn't actually defeat. But he held his own. Like when he got super fast and he like just scratched the guy, and he like cut his back, but he was trying to chop his head off when he did that. So it was cool to see him not exactly beat the guy, but he stood up on his own 2 feet. And it was pretty awesome to see him do that. And then Akame comes in and just destroys the guy. So that was of course really awesome. They're moving at super speeds and stuff, and it's just a real anime fair fight. So it was actually really awesome. I love seeing that. And Akame being so fast that she's like, she said it herself, like, it doesn't matter if you can read my mind, I'm better than him. She might as well have said that, but she's like, I'm so fast, it doesn't mean anything. And she's just flying at the guy, and then we got a little glimpse of her sister, and I think I mentioned this. Yeah, I mentioned this in like my first review for the series. Like there's the manga prequel because I believe the manga for this is still ongoing, but they made a prequel as well that explains a lot of the stuff, which I'm sure they'll get into in the series as well. But we got to see Akame's sister in this episode. I'm pretty sure it's her sister, so sorry to kind of spoil that, but not really. I think it was obvious. But, we got to see them in battles and stuff. That's really all I know from the description I read almost a year ago about the prequel manga. But it was cool. Like, we got to see like glimpses of them, and they were in like their white jackets and stuff. They looked kind of cool, actually. And they both had katanas. I don't know if her sister had an Imperial Arms katana, and that may not have been the same katana that Akame has right now. It may not have been the I forgot what they called it. It was like Murasama, I believe, which is really close to like Muramasa, the Demon Blade, and I think that was on purpose. But you got those little glimpses, and the guy's like, I'm going to take her down, and she's like, meh, and just slashed the stomach. And pretty much all we got was my love for her is why I basically had to kill her. So that's kind of what happened in the past. She had to kill her sister for some reason. Maybe it was an Imperial Arms thing. It made her, kind of go nuts or something. But great ending for the episode. Nice little tiny, just itty bitty minuscule piece of information as far as Akame's history, but it was definitely an awesome episode. I do wish we got to see some of the other characters fight because I would have loved to have seen this guy be too tough for just Akame, although at the same time that would kind of make it like, well, it would make it seem like Akame isn't as good as they say, but I think it would have made sense considering all of his insane powers, like being able to read people's minds as well as being able to see the future. I think regardless of your skill, I think it would be totally fine if that didn't work just for Akame. Like even if Tatsumi had to get back into it as merely a distraction, I think that would work. And I thought that's what was going to happen because she was hypnotized. Like she's hypnotized, and then he'd have to like get up and just jump in front of the guy to like block her view or something like that. And then she'd be so fast she could just push him out of the way and stab the guy or something. But it was really cool, and she took the guy down. I thought she was just gonna like cut him and make him suffer, but she like slit his throat and everything and just killed him in like one go. And one thing that I was very surprised by, and they kind of talked about this early on, like Tatsumi, after you learned all about the weapons, he's like, all right, so where's mine? I was like, oh, he's gonna get this from this guy. That seemed like the super obvious thing. Like, all right, they beat the guy. He's just gonna get the eye, and that's gonna be how, he'll train more, of course, but it'll help him fight really tough enemies because he'll have the foresight and all that. And it was like, nope. She cut the things and like the little, I guess, buds or whatever that keep it on the guy's head. Those broke off, and then it was nothing. It was like he went to his friend's grave, which also I thought was really funny because when the guy explained, like, it makes you, when you're hypnotized, it makes you see the person you care about most. The first thing I thought of was like, man, just F my buddy, huh? Like, I don't care about this guy. He only cared about the girl. And that was just the first thing that came to my mind when he explained the ability of the third eye. I was like, oh, wow, he just didn't give a crap. He didn't see them both. It was like, nah, F him. Her in like a dress, like half, like a robe basically. That's what he saw, because that's what he cared about most. But it was still a cool power, and I was surprised that he didn't get that as his Imperial Arms, joining with the rank. And maybe it was something they kind of skipped over to save it, where he didn't see it happen, and Akame does end up giving it to him later in the series or something. But I was really surprised. I was like, oh, they kind of just, like, little budge broke off. Like, tie that thing to my head, because it's superpowers, and that could help me survive if we're going up, against all these different people. So I love that. Hopefully that is what ends up happening, and he does get this weapon. Like, he's great on his own, of course, but it would still be cool. Like, eventually they're gonna go up against enemies. Like in this episode, he went up against an enemy he couldn't have defeated. So the next time he faces someone like that, if he had the help of his Imperial Arms, he might survive. Or even if they're on a Akame's level, he'd be able to at least hold his own until someone else came into the battle to take over for him. So I hope it plays out that way. I don't really know. But it was a good episode. Early on in it as well, we got to see the leader of the group actually talking to this guy who was like dying out randomly on some rocks, and it was like the tiniest hint of some like the main story arc where they're gonna go up against basically the rulers of the city, and they have this letter now full of information about, these are the people that are gonna actually help us revolt against the king and everything. So I thought that was really cool because, yeah, of course it's only a couple episodes in, but it's just been, villain of the week type stuff so far. So that was like our first really big nod into the group joining more people. Like I really thought it would just be them, but now we get some info. Like it's not just gonna be Night Raid going up against these people. It's actually gonna be Night Raid plus a lot of people who recognize the injustices going on and want to help fight back against this, you know, crazy guy who's messing with this little kid's mind, making him be like the worst king around. So I thought that was a great nod. I hope we get to see more of that in the next episode, just to meet some of the other sort of normal players. But I do also want to see a lot of the other characters fight, because we got in the first episode a little, but it was really just like, here's like a one-hit kill, and here's me shooting a laser, here's me, doing this and doing that. Really simple stuff. So I would love to see, just like this episode, a pretty long fight where they don't just have a human target that, they can just take out or something. Especially Akame, because, like she said, literally one cut, like, they made the little funny part about her cleaning her katana, but one cut and then you're poisoned, you're cursed, and then you're done for. So someone else would have a much tougher time. They would have to actually scratch the person and, have to do way more than just scratch the person. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Either one, like more of the story of some of the other people outside of Night Raid that are going to help out, or just some more awesome action scenes, which I know we're going to get those, so I kind of want to get more of this backstory and stuff like that. But I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below, let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And since this was the first really, really tough villain that, Akame had to come in and actually defeat, I want to know what you guys thought about this villain, and whether or not you guys thought he would last longer than just this one episode, and also what you guys thought about Tatsumi not getting his Imperial Arms, at least on screen just yet by the end of this episode. Because like I said, I thought it seemed like it was perfect foreshadowing. Like, where's mine? Like, we can't just give these things away. And look at that. Here's, our target who has an Imperial Arms and he's defeated. Imperial Arms up for grabs. So unless they did do what I was saying with Akame grabbing it off screen, and then we get that when they decide Tatsumi's ready for it, it seemed really weird to me. But I want to know what you guys thought, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.